Josh George, Football Guys channel here. I'm going to break down Sun Belt college football. I'm going to go through every team's schedule, tell you what I think their win total will be, and you'll figure out if they're going to make a bowl game or not. You'll figure out who will be the conference champion, who's up and who's down, and where are the key players in the Sun Belt. And I'm going to make one prediction right now. I think the Sun Belt will have no divisions next year, especially with how stacked the East will be this season. I've got all these teams in alphabetical order. Let's take a ride. Starting with Appalachian State. Appalachian State has Sean Clark as head coach. He's been there for 4 seasons. Now, they're going to dip, according to 247 Sports, as they only have 4 starters back on defense. But they were within 5 points of 2 Power 5 programs. That's through North Carolina and Texas A&M, including one of the best block parties and best upsets of the season last year over Texas A&M. And they have their biggest star, Nate Noel, back, who was part of a very consistent, if not the most consistent offense in the nation last year. But they just have an incredibly hard schedule this year, in my opinion. I think with the defense that dips a little, I have them 7-5 and 5-3. I have them getting wins over Gardner-Webb, East Carolina, Louisiana Monroe, West Carolina, Marshall, Georgia State, and Georgia Southern. And the other games that I have them losing are North Carolina, Wyoming, Old Dominion, Southern Miss, and James Madison. Now to the Chanticleers. Fun name to say. Coastal Carolina is one of the absolute funnest teams to watch with one of the absolute coolest logos. And they ended up getting Grayson McCall back. Tim Beck is a guy that likes to put an emphasis on the run. They ran for 159 yards per game. It just really comes down to, and by the way, North Carolina State, where he comes from, had an amazing run game. Fun to watch on film. Really good scheme, putting hats on hats. So they're going to be able to run the ball, but the question is, they only have 4 starters back on defense as well. So how good will this Chanticleers team wind up? Can this defense really build around this new, simpler 4-3 scheme? I have them at 8-4 and 6-2. I have them beating JSU, Duquesne, Georgia State, Georgia Southern, Marshall, Old Dominion, Texas State, and then losing the other games. So those are the 8 wins that I have getting. Now, Georgia Southern. Georgia Southern is coached by Clay Helton. Clay Helton is a guy that likes to pass the ball, and he loves his environment in the middle of Georgia. He talks about it's very different than LA, but he likes it better. And he pulls a lot of guys through the portal there, using that it's a nice home place. And they have 7 starters back on offense. An offense that was 4th in the nation in pass yards per game at 329 yards per game. And he pulled a tight end, Keaton Upshaw, through the portal. And he will join Jay McAfee, who's a 6'3 guy at tight end already. So 2 tough passing matchups. Can this defense do better? They were 128th in the nation in total defense. Just that inconsistency, really good offense, not good defense. I have them 6-6 and 4-4. I have them beating the Citadel, Ball State, Louisiana Monroe, Georgia State, Texas State, Old Dominion, and that would make for 6 wins. Losing the other games would make for 6-6 and 4-4. Now, to a Georgia State team that I think is going to have a down season. I think Charlotte is going to be an easy win for them, and I know it's a road game, but I think they'll win that one. And then it's like a team that's just going to play close games. Robert Lewis is a good wide receiver. He's got a lot of speed. You'll see the ball in Darren Gardner's hands a lot. And Chad Staggs is really trying to improve this defense, but it's just not there yet, as they gave up about 400 yards per game last season. I have them at 2-10 and 1-7 in conference play. I have them beating Charlotte, like I said, and then their other win I have against Old Dominion. So take that for what you will. James Madison. Look, James Madison is a team that is unfortunately on a bowl ban. That I think that this bowl ban thing where you come up and you're on a ban is so weird. Because they would have been a bowl team last season. They only lost 3 games. They were a really streaky team. They actually started the year on a 5-game win streak, went on a 3-game losing streak, and then won their last 3. And they would have been an 8-win team in a decent bowl game and probably fun to watch. Maybe even won their first bowl game. But they'll have to wait till next season despite their record this season. Now, they do bring back 5 starters on offense and 6 on defense. So pretty consistent across the board. They actually, depth-wise, brought back 1/5 of their roster, which was one of the best stats in all of college football. So really good for James Madison. When it comes down to it, it's just, can they maintain consistency throughout the year? Can that offense that scored that 37 points per game and that defense that held teams to 20 points per game be consistent? I have them 7-5 and 6-2. I have them with wins over Bucknell, Georgia Southern, Marshall, Old Dominion, Georgia State, UConn, and Appalachian State. Marshall, the Thundering Herd. Another team in this division that's really cool, really good name brand. I mean, a team that just is, I think, is absolutely on fire. I think some of the top teams in the conference are right here in this division. Now, of course, Charles Huff, 16-10 over at Marshall and overall. They had that big win over Notre Dame at the beginning of the year. It's because they had a top 4 rushing defense last season. They were able to shut down Notre Dame's run game, and it led to that 26-21 victory. And frankly, they were only a 4-loss team last season and won a bowl game over UConn 28-14. So a team that could go out of the league, go play major opponents, and win games. But this year, I think they take a dip. One of those teams, only 4 starters back on defense. Now, the last time they won a conference title was 2014, and they were in Conference USA. So, running backs need to do better. Only average 3.2 yards per carry. I have them at 5-7 and 4-4, and I have them beating Albany, Old Dominion, Georgia State, Georgia Southern, and Arkansas State. Old Dominion. Another team that is one of those teams that is slated to be in the bottom 10, and a team that I just don't have at the top of the conference. And you've got to play in the hardest division in the Sun Belt. Because of that, I think they're going to end up struggling. They only have 3 starters back on defense, worse than the other teams, by the way. So, and of course, you get a really fun guy to watch, Kendris Callaway. You pulled him from a junior college transfer guy, so that's kind of a big deal. But I only have them winning 2 games. I have them beating Texas A&M Commerce, and I have them winning a conference game over Appalachian State. I just think that's one of those weird games where, hey, because sometimes it happens, you get a really weird game in there. Okay, West Division of the Sun Belt. Let's take a breather, and then we'll get to Arkansas State. Arkansas State. the pixie dust of the West. The Let's Butch It Up Some Butch Jones. Look, Butch Jones, the jury is still out on him and how good of a coach he is. He's got Brian Snead, really good running back, one of the fastest running backs in the Sun Belt. And a team that pulled a lot of guys. They were number 2 in the portal in this conference. So they ended up pulling a lot of guys through the portal. And, of course, Sammy Johnson might have the most interceptions in the Sun Belt this year. Defensive back for Arkansas State. So, good team. Not a great team. Tough schedule on non-con. Memphis and OU. Probably only going to win one of those games. I have them at 5-7 and 2-6. I have them losing to Oklahoma, beating Memphis, beating Stony Brook, losing to Southern Miss, beating Massachusetts, losing to Troy, beating Coastal Carolina, losing at Louisiana Monroe, losing at to Louisiana, losing at South Alabama, beating Texas State, and losing to Marshall. Now to the Raging Cajuns of Louisiana, the Louisiana team. So they're a fun team that has just been trending down recently. And it just comes down to an offense that's just not performing up to par from what we've come to expect. They're 77th offense in the nation, and Louisiana was 0-4 in one-score games last season. So they really struggled to win close games. And, of course, they've always had some difficulty in the pass defense. And, of course, they only have one safety back. So they're really going to struggle on defense. In fact, they only have 3 starters back. I have them at 4-6 and 2. I have them beating Northwestern State, Old Dominion, Buffalo, Texas State, Georgia State, Arkansas State, and Southern Miss. Oh, and Louisiana Monroe at the end of the year. That makes 8. Louisiana Monroe, coached by a Bowden, one of the offspring of Bobby Bowden. Head coach Terry Bowden is only 8-16 at Louisiana Monroe. But wait, Terry Bowden is in fact a coach that has 180 wins across all of college football, FCS, and guys bounced around everywhere. So there you go. In Major D1, he's only got 90 wins though. So, and they had the best defensive transfer portal in the country, but they lost a lot of guys on offense, and they're going to leave a lot of things to be desired there. So they only scored 22 points per game last season, but a defense that portal-wise is totally improved and led by returning starter Kinder Snyder, and just a lot of new faces, and of course, a good scheme going to be put together on defense. Their goal is to hold teams under 30 points per game and score 30 points per game. If they do that, they get to a bowl game. I have them 4-8 and 2-6. I have those 4 wins being Army, Lamar, start 2-0. That can be a confidence booster. And then going to the middle of the schedule there, beating Texas State. And then I have them beating Arkansas State. South Alabama. I don't know if they're going to be a surprise team to you, but I think that they'll be a surprise team to some because they're actually going to be really good. They only lost 3 games last year, and one of those losses was in the New Orleans Bowl to Western Kentucky. They have 8 starters back on offense and defense. So that's one of some of the highest in the Sun Belt. FYI, they're going to be really good. Shh, it'll surprise people. No, they bring back their quarterback, Carter Bradley, and their running back, LaDamian Webb. 2 huge players. Not to mention their key pass catcher, Devin Vosslin. So they're going to be good. They might make a New Year's 6 bowl. I really think that they're going to be, Athlon says that they're going to be the most consistent team in the group of 5 this season. which usually that's Athlon's way of saying, hey, we have them in a New Year's Six bowl game. So, and they put out their New Year's Six bowl predictions and everything too, but no, they're going to be a team that definitely competes for that. And with the team that scores 31 points per game, or scored it last season and held teams to only 3 touchdowns a game last season, they're going to be really good. I have them at 10-2, and I know winning all the conference games, losing to Tulane and OSU, Oklahoma State in the non-con. That's 2 tough road games. They might even be able to pull one of those off. I mean, Tulane's a team that beat Kansas State last year and just performs really good in the non-conference games. And Oklahoma State's under win total is like at 6.5. But to get there, it feels like this is a game that they're going to have circled because you got to win your non-con when you're a big team like that. Anyways, moving on. We'll see how South Alabama does. Now, to the home of Frank Gore Jr. and Southern Miss. Look, this running game and his career is really at stake as they pulled Derek Clark from the portal, who is going to back up a 1,000-yard back in Frank Gore. So, I mean, and he's got 7 guys on offense and 4 of his 5 main linemen back. And of the 2 set, they've got like 6 guys back from last season. So, offensive line is going to be fine. Defense, they were 44th in scoring defense, only let in 23 points per game, ended -3 in the turnover margin category, though. So, but Frank Gore, it's one of those win or transfer kind of seasons. And they might put Ty Mims back at running back, too. So, if 3 guys get carries, I just feel like you need to feed the monster. I think that Frank Gore is going to really take advantage of his opportunities. I think they'll be 8-4 and 6-2. And I have them beating Alcorn State, Tulane, Arkansas State, Texas State, Old Dominion, Appalachian State, Louisiana Monroe, and senior night against Troy. Texas State. Oh, the old adage is, if you have nothing good to say, don't say anything at all, but I'm not going to let you guys hear crickets. So, yeah, this team only has 2 starters back on offense, and an offense that was one of the worst in the country. They were 112th in total offense. So it's just hard to put your finger on it. I mean, they relied on a defense that only allowed 116 rush yards per game last year. But if you can't score, you can't win. I have them 0-12 and 0-8. Troy. Look, Troy is a team that is picked second in the Sun Belt, and they're one of the teams that make it the Fun Belt. You've noticed a lot of jumping around teams beating teams. You know, they had 2 losses, both of them in their first 3 games last season. You know, at Appalachian State and then at Ole Miss. And then a team that just figured it out. They're on the 2nd longest win streak. Georgia's on the 1st. So, a really good team. And my battery's running low, but that's not going to be the be-all, end-all. I'm just going to say they're going to be good next year. I have them 7-5 and 6-2 because it's the Fun Belt. They're going to lose some games. But I have them beating Stephen F. Austin, James Madison, Georgia State, Arkansas State, Texas State, Louisiana Monroe, and Louisiana. Then the conference title. Look, Coastal Carolina is going to be a good team. Tim Beck's going to find a way to run the ball, but the best team right now in the Sun Belt, in my opinion, is South Alabama. I have them at 11-2 and 8-5. Please like and subscribe to the video. I am Josh George. This is the channel that I call Football Guy. Signing off. Have a nice day.